I hope you're doing fine and are well. I'm okay, a bit hay fevery, but hanging in there, which is great. Thank you for your questions, which I always enjoy getting. And it also gave me a chance to talk with Phil and Jenny, one of the original Time team of diggers, about that site and a whole range of other things. So please have a listen to those. We've had some lovely questions. Peg Robertson Warnock, not really a question, but a lovely bit of detail. She sent us a photograph, which I hope will be able to show you, of Madame Chou, which was her father's plane. And the art on it was done by Annie, who painted the plane in our programme. His hospital unit landed on Utah Beach on June the 16th, 1944. So what a memory, Peggy. And it's lovely to see your dad there with a rather nice, looks like a Jack Russell Terrier. Nico Home, very critical question this. Does Phil prefer ale or lager? Oh, Phil could talk about this for hours. And it's a very extremely serious subject, and I can only say if you attempted to give Phil lager at any stage, you'd be lucky if you got away without it being poured over your head. Ale is Phil's drink, and in particular Summer Lightning, which I have sampled on a few occasions, and it's strong stuff, I can tell you, produced by the Hopback Brewery, and it's an award-winning ale, and I'm pretty sure that Phil would drink nothing else. Hopback Summer Lightning is the brew for Phil. Mahu, one day I'd come over and I'd like to talk to Phil in person, and Mahu refers to some things that Phil helped to get through, and Phil's the way he talks about the Waterloo excavation, which he's involved in, Mahu, I think would be a great thing for you to listen to, and I hope you'd enjoy it. And I'm sure that if you sent us an email or something, a message, we could pass it on to Phil. Patrick McGarry, how did Phil get his job at Grimes Graves? Now, this is a tricky one. I think I might have to ask Phil about this, but in my memory, I think he said that he volunteered to work there, but it's a very precise thing, an amazing site, underground dugout mines to collect flint. Amazing site. Victor's done a wonderful picture of it somewhere, but we'll have to discuss that with the authority to make sure we get the answer right. So we'll get back to you on that one, Patrick. Susan, would it have saved time and frustration if the air enthusiast had mentioned that the propellers had disappeared off to the local museum? I think probably the answer to that is tactfully yes, Susan, but when you're doing work with different groups of people, there's always various challenges. And along the way you have to adapt to some rather individual characters, and thankfully we caught up with the situation a bit late on, but we caught up with it, and we take these things, these things happen on Time Teams, so we take them with a pinch of salt. Anthony Molyneux Steele, if Time Team were to come back, would Phil get involved in a supervisory role? Phil is probably one of the more firmly busy people with Wessex and other people. All the Time Team take a tremendous interest in the programme and care for it, and I'd like to think they would always be available. We've had lots of interesting discussions with them, and they've all got something helpful to say, and I think it's very good that we keep a link with these people as mentors, even if they don't actually come and do the programme with us. I think it's very useful to have them and their advice, and I think in some cases it may be that if we get the right site, then they may well be there. We're having to work those things out at the moment, but they're all old friends. They love Time Team, and I would expect they would be around in some shape or form. Henry Welch, I've always assumed that the 3 days of each episode would have been filmed on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and was that actually the case? Originally it was. The reason for that, Henry, was that they had what we called a day job. They went back to university on Monday or whatever their job was. I would get them Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and then we'd do Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And that was the cause of the original 3 days, interestingly enough. So yes, it began like that, but then as we began to do more, in some cases we're doing 13 programs a year, and a lot of our guys, Time Team became a bit more of a full-time job, and the universities allowed them time off to do Time Team, which was fantastic. It was great. They were supported in that way, so that sometimes those days changed, but it was always 3 days. It was that was part of the program. It's what we did, and it seems an incredibly short amount of time nowadays to do archaeology in, but kind of worked. Linda L. Stinson. The line between regular investigations and archaeology, is it archaeology if it's within recent memory? What makes specifically a dig archaeological? Interesting question. I think archaeology is about a set of techniques. The implication is the past, but the more recent past can also be challenges to the skills of archaeology. It's a way, Mick used to say, archaeology is a way of looking at the world, and we can take that way of looking at the world and apply it to anything. Mick used to do a wonderful thing where he'd hold up a Coke can and he would say, exactly what does this tell me about the society that threw this thing away and spent all this money to create a container for a drink? And it's that kind of analysis that I think archaeology can really apply to. The older the sites, the more difficult it is to apply some of these things, and therefore it makes it more interesting, more drawn out. And Time Team, I was always very happy when we were in sites where it felt like genuine history, genuine archaeology, beyond what we could have the written documents for. Somehow having the photographs of planes and seeing, Mick, I know, said to me it all felt a bit close, particularly like the Spitfire and these B-17s, where people in living memory knew some of these people who'd lost their lives, and that does change the mood of a site somewhat. So I hope that sort of makes some sort of distinction with you. But archaeology can be applied to anything. Forensic archaeology can be applied to events which are quite recent. So it is that way of looking at the world that's kind of unique. And I hope you've enjoyed the way we've been trying to show it to you on the various programs. We've got another one coming up, different place altogether from the B-17s, and thankfully not a huge morass of wobbling jelly that was the Norfolk site where we dug the bombers. So thank you for watching, Time Team. Thank you for your questions, and we'll see you next Sunday, hopefully at 6 o'clock, for another Time Team Tea Time.